People often ask me why they feel like drinking again after they've quit, after they've become sober. It seems to be a relatively common phenomenon, and I wanted to address it today in case you've given up alcohol and you've suddenly started feeling like taking a drink might be a good idea. First of all, I can assure you it's not a good idea, but let's talk about why that happens and what you can do about it. First of all, it's been an amazing week. My new book has come out this week. You can grab yourself a copy now on Amazon. I'd love you to read it. You simply read one chapter a day over 50 days. There's no pressure to stop drinking straight away. Just take your time and work through the book. There's a workbook included as well. So you can discover all about your relationship with alcohol and find out exactly how to quit without using bucket loads of willpower. You can get that now. It's getting some amazing reviews and some wonderful feedback. I'd love for you to check that out. It really is an awesome book, and it's been amazing this week as it only came out a few days ago, and it's been flying up the charts and getting loads of awesome feedback. So if you've got the book, thank you. If not, use the link right above my head. You can go to my website and you can grab yourself a copy through the link to Amazon. Now, if you've started to feel like you want to drink again after you've quit, we need to pay attention to those feelings. The worst thing you can do is decide that it's a good idea and just go with it. Don't forget, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts every single day. Just because you have a thought about having pizza for dinner tonight, it doesn't mean you're going to go and order one. But when we have a thought about alcohol, it seems louder, more colourful, noisy, and we tend to pay attention to it. You have a choice. You don't have to pay attention to that thought. You can just let it go. You could visualize yourself stood out in an empty field, holding onto a balloon, and the thought is in the balloon. Watch yourself let go of that balloon, which is filled with helium, and see it float up into the sky until the thought becomes smaller and smaller. There's lots of visualizations you can do to allow yourself to release a thought. You could visualize it like a cloud passing across the sky, because remember, everything passes, thoughts pass, everything passes, uncomfortable feelings, emotions, they all pass. So allow yourself the opportunity to feel it pass and know that you'll get stronger in doing that, in letting yourself do that. You grow. You become able to cope with feelings like cravings and thoughts that might be urging you to drink. So we know that drinking isn't going to help. I'm going to assume that you understand all the benefits that come with an alcohol-free life, and you also have recognized the damage that alcohol might have done to your own life. So you need to ask yourself, what is this thought trying to tell you? What are these feelings trying to say to you? And it's worth getting that down in your journal, really exploring it. What is this trying to tell me? My personal view is that this happens, these feelings of wanting to drink after we've quit happens for one of three reasons. Now, the first reason is that we can put on rose-tinted spectacles. We start to forget how bad it really was when we were drinking, and we start to become excited by the anticipation, the thought of drinking. You might have, like me, had the experience when you were drinking of feeling an excitement and an anticipation even when you were buying alcohol. I used to feel a sense of relief when I picked the bottle off of the shelf in the store. The alcohol was having an effect on me even before I was drinking it. I was excited by the anticipation. It wasn't the actual process of drinking it. Sure, it numbed me out and dulled my senses for an hour, maybe two, but it was the anticipation, the sense of relief, the excitement that came with it. So there can be some of that. And there can be rose-tinted spectacles where we look back at things and forget how bad it really was. And it's a great idea to remind yourself by looking in your journal, if you keep one, at your early entries. And if you haven't kept a journal, write it down. Write down all the things that alcohol did to your life. Maybe it made you a worse parent, a worse partner. Maybe you weren't performing at work. You might not have felt motivated or enthusiastic. It might have impacted your health. Get it all down and refresh yourself on the reasons why you chose to quit drinking. Use that as a reinforcement, a positive reinforcement. This is known as fading effect bias. It basically means the further away we get from a problem, the less bad it seems in our memory. And it's really important to keep reminding ourselves what it was really like. I'd urge you to keep a journal long term, definitely over the first year when you quit drinking, because the data that you collect will enable you to reflect, it'll enable you to celebrate victories, and it will give you so much crucial data. I also think a great tactic, if you've put on the rose tinted spectacles and you're starting to think that drinking is a great idea, is to have really open and honest conversations with the people closest to you. Ask your kids, your partner, and your friends how they felt about you when you were drinking. Tell them to be completely honest. And if they feel uncomfortable being honest face to face, maybe you could ask them to write you a letter or send you an email, because I'm sure that will reinforce all the reasons why you quit, and it will make you realize that you've absolutely made the right decision, and all that's happening is a thoughts come into your head, and it's noisier and louder than the rest of the thoughts that you have. I think that's a really great strategy, to ask the people around you. You'll get a lot of important data from that. So reflect on those reasons, look back at it, ask yourself why you wanted to live alcohol free, and remind yourself of everything that you've gained in sobriety. What has improved since you quit drinking? Maybe your mental health is better. Maybe your skin has improved. Maybe you feel more energized, more motivated. Maybe you've taken up new hobbies. Do you really want to throw all that away for the sake of a poisonous liquid? I'm sure you don't. My anxiety faded from 8 or 9 out of 10 down to 2 or 3 out of 10 after a few months without alcohol. I would never want to drink again. I just look at alcohol now as anxiety in a bottle. What do you look at alcohol as? What label would you put on that bottle? Maybe it caused you to feel depressed. Maybe it affected your relationships. Maybe it impacted on your all-round state of well-being. Think of a label that you would put on there. But for me, it's anxiety in a bottle. Now, the second reason that you can feel like you want to drink again after you've stopped is that it can be a sign that you need to grow and stretch yourself mentally. Often we've quit drinking, there's a honeymoon period that follows after that, and we feel a sense of achievement. We've done something amazing, something challenging. But then as the months go by, it tends to go a little bit flat. And this can happen for people. Pay attention to it. And really, that can be a sign that you need to give yourself something more. You need to nourish your mind. And often it's simply a case of finding a new hobby, a new pastime, maybe learning something new, like a language or a musical instrument, whatever takes your fancy. It might even be a sign that you need more social interaction. Explore it with curiosity. And a great strategy is to look at your values, look at your life values. If you've got my new book, there's a big list of values in there so that you can define them. You can really get some clarity over what your own personal values are. But the important thing is to notice how you're meeting those values. If one of your life values is honesty, yet you're working as a salesperson and bending the truth every day to get deals across the line, then you're probably not going to be feeling a lot of happiness from that. In fact, it's going to be causing you to suffer. It's important that we meet our values, and even more important that we don't do things that push against our values. So understand your values and then find new activities, new pastimes, new hobbies that bring you complete joy and align with your values. If you're struggling to find the things that bring you joy, look back to your childhood. What was it that you used to do that you would get lost in time? You lose track of time. You'd spend hours doing it. Maybe it was arts or crafts. Maybe it was reading. Maybe it involved music or playing something or sports, whatever it might be. I would say that there's a fair chance that if you've felt flat and you've had an urge to drink, it could well be that you just need to stretch yourself. It might also be that you need to set a goal for yourself. When I first quit drinking, I entered the Valencia Marathon, which was 6 months later. So instead of completely focusing on sobriety for the entire time, I was also training for a marathon. It was a big event, it needed a lot of training. And that really helped me. So you might want to think about setting a goal for yourself, something that you can work towards and feel really proud of yourself and empowered that you're doing something for you. I don't suggest you enter a marathon unless you really want to, but there's loads of things that you could do in terms of setting a goal, new hobbies, and new pastimes. The third reason could be that alcohol was not the root of the problem. And I've talked about this on other videos before, and it comes up time and time again. People quit drinking and they think they're going to be fine. They think they're going to be happy and everything's going to be wonderful. Yet they still have this underlying sense that they're not really happy, that they're carrying some kind of void within their soul. They feel kind of empty inside. And if that's you, then you might find that you were using alcohol to hide from feelings and emotions that you didn't want to face up to. We all have something called a shadow. Our shadow is where we keep the parts of us that we refuse to acknowledge. We don't ever look at them. We bury them deep away. Yet there's peace and happiness to be found in accepting those parts, the good, the bad, and the ugly about ourselves. My own experience is exactly this. I quit drinking and I felt great. I felt really happy, but there was still an underlying sense that something wasn't quite right. And it led me to start exploring what else was going on. And with my newfound sense of clarity, the fact that I was much more mentally resilient, I was able to start looking at the roots of the problem, why I had been using addictive behavior as a coping mechanism. And it was all to do with things from my childhood. There was past trauma and there was emotional neglect. Emotional neglect can be really, really subtle. A lot of people don't even recognize it's happened until they start digging into it much deeper. But I would never have been capable of looking at these things and facing up to my past and finding acceptance of past trauma and emotional neglect without quitting drinking. I wasn't in a stable place when I was drinking to have been able to understand how my childhood has actually impacted me and my behavior as an adult. We develop a new awareness of our negative behaviors. We reconnect with our feelings and our emotions. And part of this process is to look at what the root of the problem was. I don't believe that many addictions are the actual cause, they're often the effect. The cause normally comes from something that runs far, far deeper. And I did so much work around this. I practiced becoming radically honest. I joined a men's therapy group, and I've even written a book about dealing with past issues that will be out in late 2021. For me, the sober journey is not just about stopping drinking. That's just the first part, the initial stepping stone. There's so much more about it. We discover new things about ourselves, and some of them can feel like a challenge, especially when we start exploring things from our past, and especially if there's past trauma or emotional neglect there. But if we've got the strength to kick alcohol, we can deal with anything that comes up. And once we take off the mask of alcohol that we've hidden behind for such a long time, and we begin to look in the mirror at who we really are, we become whole. We can start working on ourselves and we can become really, really happy. So, in many cases, when we have that urge to drink alcohol again, it's often because we've chopped off one of the branches of the tree, but we haven't got down to the roots of the tree. We haven't ripped those roots out of the ground. Chopping off the branch was dealing with alcohol, and that set us up for success. But we need to dig deeper. We need to dig into the roots. And I'm not saying this is the case for every single person, but I see this time and time again. So if you've quit alcohol and you've started to think that drinking might be an option, see it as a gift. See it as a sign that you should start to get curious, start to pay attention to where those thoughts and feelings are coming from. Start exploring it deeply. Thank it. Thank that gift for coming to you, and pointing you in the right direction, that there's something else that needs to be looked at. So just to recap, if you felt like drinking again, it's probably coming from either rose-tinted spectacles, where you're looking back at memories from the past and they've become distorted. They're not the correct memories and you need to get complete clarity on them. Or it's a sign that you need to grow, nourish your mind, and stretch yourself a little bit further with new hobbies, activities, and pastimes. Or it's potentially something from your past that hasn't been resolved and you've dealt with quitting drinking, but those underlying roots of the problem still exist. And now is a great time where you're more mentally resilient and able to deal with those issues. And feel free to reach out anytime, especially if it's the third option, because I've got personal experience of dealing with this stuff and I can definitely give you some tips and pointers that will help you. I hope that gives you some ideas. If you've been having those feelings, feel free to leave a comment and please do subscribe to the channel. There's new videos every Tuesday and every Thursday.